So our first interview is Rich Blank. He's a mechanical engineer that made the fastest robot in his industry. So we'll see how it goes. Rich, when did you choose this career?
I've been working at Lam for 28 years, and I graduated from UC Davis with a master's degree in mechanical engineering. My current title at Lam Research is Vice President of Mechatronics Engineering, and I've been in that position. I've been doing robotics and mechatronics for the whole time I've been at Lam Research. So what caused me to pick the career of mechanical engineering? I think I had a big influence from my family because I'm the youngest of nine kids. I have 8 brothers and sisters, and 3 of my older brothers all went to school for mechanical engineering, and I think the mechanical engineering is just in our blood in my family. We all like to work with our hands. We grew up working on things at home, bicycles and other mechanical things at home. And then when I saw my brothers doing the career, and it was just a natural fit for me as well. So it was a pretty easy choice.
When you were a kid, what was your dream job?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a police officer. And so even up until I started college, I was still contemplating being a police officer. But when I got into college and got into the curriculum, I decided to take the path of being a mechanical engineer.
What education or training is required for that job?
Well, to be a mechanical engineer, you have to go to college, or at least you should. There are cases where people become mechanical engineers and they don't have college, but 99% people need to go to a college that has a mechanical engineering curriculum and get a bachelor's degree or higher. Other than that, that's really it. There's things that can help you as a better mechanical engineer. As you guys know, like building Legos. So like probably the rest of you guys, when I was young, I was really into Legos. So I, really loved to build things. And a little bit different though, I didn't just build the kits and put them on the shelf. I used to just have a big box and I would build things out of my imagination. And, I outgrew it when I was 13 or 14, but I think that was a good foundation to getting there. And a lot of my colleagues and people that I interview, that's a big influence on their growing up as well. So I think, using your hands a lot, building things, taking things apart, trying to understand how things work is really important to being a good mechanical engineer. Because what do you build as a mechanical engineer? You build machines, essentially. Cars, machinery, any kind of mechanical gadget, machinery for production of whatever is all done by mechanical engineers.
What's a typical day at work look like for you?
So as a mechanical engineer, your output, what you produce is really is documentation, and it's kind of a surprise to people that at first, but ultimately what we produce is a set of documents, not necessarily on paper anymore. They're computer files, and they're computer files with instructions, with drawings, with information to build a mechanical machine. Okay, so although mechanical engineers do get involved in the manufacturing process a lot, the generic mechanical engineer is behind the scenes doing the inventing. They do the conceptual designs, they do the drawings, the CAD, 3D models, they do all that. So that's what my team does ultimately is generate all this information that's going to be used later to produce something. And so the first thing that I do is I start answering emails. So a lot of the day you spend talking to people. So I meet with my team. I walk around and say hello in the morning. I look to see what emails I've received overnight because we work with teams all over the world. So I may get an email from India or an email from Vietnam or somewhere else. And so I look to see what emails I've received that require me to give it attention. And then I address that. And then I look to see what meetings I have during the day. And a typical mechanical engineer will have anywhere from 1 to 8 meetings a day. Some people spend all day in meetings. Some people don't spend a lot. I spend about a third of my day in meetings, and so I'll prepare for the day's meetings depending on what the situation is. Um, I'll go, and as a leader, my my goal is to make sure that all the people that are working on projects are getting what they need in order to finish their tasks. So I'll go around and talk to people and find out if they need any help from me. And then I'll look to see what I'm responsible for. So also, we have to do a lot of presentation. So similar, I think, to what you guys are doing here, we use PowerPoint a lot. So we'll spend a lot of the time putting down on PowerPoint what our particular project is so that we can transmit the information to other people in the company. And so we try to document all of the aspects of our project in PowerPoint. And so, yeah, spend a lot of time doing that. And then also, we spend a lot of time in the lab. So I'll go into the lab, I'll see what assemblies are being built, I'll see what assemblies are being tested. And if I'm doing something, I'll find my parts, find my tools, get my computer, and start to work on my experiments. So my team, because we work on robots, we will spend the majority of our time in the lab with a robot or with something related to a robot.
What kind of subjects would you say are needed to become a mechanical engineer?
The first year, you spend the time taking the foundation classes. You take math, you take chemistry, you take computer classes, programming, and then the second year is still foundation classes, but more focused on engineering. So now you're taking, for example, a class on fabrication of metal parts, a class on what do you call this? Like similar to a lot of math classes with respect to geometry. Third year, you jump into your engineering type courses. So as a mechanical engineer, you have to design metal parts in an efficient manner, and so you need to know whether the parts will be strong enough, whether they'll be fabricated in the right way. So we take classes that teach us how to analyze the stresses and strains of metals, and then we also learn how to the thermal aspect. So heat transfer is very important. Dealing with parts that get hot, and then the fourth year is more specifically tailored towards the specifics of mechanical engineering, learning how to design parts in 3D, and then some more advanced classes that maybe you'll take a robotics class or a mechatronics class that is computers and mechanical engineering together. So, for example, motors and things like that. So the foundation of robotics.
I think the meeting's about to run out of time
Okay,
since
sorry.
there's a time limit. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Yep.
Thank you, Rich. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin, and I'm doing civil engineering, and I'm interviewing David, and he wants to make a better world.
What made you choose the career you chosen?
So the reason why I chose civil engineering is because I'm interested in working in the construction and making the world a better place. And as a youth, I had the ability to build to build and assemble stuff. Used to work with wood, steel, and so I decided to pursue civil engineering because this path will allow me to work in the construction in order to make the world a better place.
Were there any educational or like training that is required?
Yes. So the first step is that you need to get education from university as a civil engineering major, and then during the civil engineering major, you'll be taking like relevant courses that are important into pursuing in which field of civil engineering you want to pursue, such as structural, transportation, environmental, construction engineering, or etc. And another part that you might want to consider is certifications and licensures, which includes the fundamentals of engineering and the professional engineering if you want to be a professional civil engineer.
How do you got started when trying to go to your goals, basically?
So so to get started, I mean, first you need to so to get started at the beginning, you will first be taking some basic math and science courses at the beginning of your college education, and then during your college education, you will be you'll be required to do some interview or co-op. Co-op, which is an interview that is a part of your graduation path for your bachelor's, and then and then optionally you're more than welcome to apply for the grad school on a particular focus on a specific field of civil engineer, because in your bachelor's you will be learning all fields of civil engineers, and then during if you want to apply for masters, then that'll be focused on only one field of civil engineer.
Mm.
Is that originally my intended was to study computer science at university, but ever since I took a computer science course at my high school and it didn't get and wasn't used to the coding methods, that's why I decided to choose civil engineering major, because I feel that is not as hard as a Java coding, which is part of this computer science major. All right, yeah, it was a pleasure to meet all of you guys, and good luck if you guys plan to pursue civil engineering major. So just pick the major which you think would suit the best for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you so
Thank
much
you so
for your
much.
information. Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
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 I decided to interview an electrical engineering supervisor. His name is Taylor. He mainly supervises how the other engineers build different machines.
Go ahead, have a seat. Yeah.
Is it working recording?
Yes, that's fine. Studied electrical engineering and got himself a good job and a cool car, and so I just sort of wanted to, wanted something similar for myself. And when college came around, I figured out I was good at math, and I just kept going. And I enjoyed doing the projects and making things, and working with my hands and designing things and optimizing things, and that's how I ended up here. I'd always known about the microwave tube industry because my dad worked in it. He's retired now, but he worked in it, and so I was able to pick up what he told me. And I remember as far back as kindergarten, I was explaining to kids on the playground, what the difference between a microwave tube for communications was and a microwave oven. So I'd always known, what the applications were, and I figured out that it was, something important and that there would be a demand for that sort of work.
When did you start working for this company?
I started 8 years ago after I graduated from college.
And how has your experience here changed since when you first started?
Well, I've gotten a lot more responsibilities. I started off as an intern, and they liked some of the work that I was doing, tracking lots, and they saw that my writing ability was good. I'm an electrical engineer, but I had to take humanities courses in college, and I learned to write. I learned to write about things that I didn't like to write about necessarily, but you pick up the skill, and finally when you get into the work world, you can write about stuff that does interest you. And so the ability to get words out on paper is a useful skill, even if you don't want to do that necessarily.
What do you find enjoyable about this company and the work area?
Well, the work's very important. It's not going away. It's a technology that's pretty old, but it's going to be here for a long time. And it's important. So, right now, there's an asteroid hurtling towards Earth that may make impact sometime in, I think it's December of 2025. And it's not a, meteor that would, destroy all of humanity or cause an extinction event, but it might take out a city if it does impact. And we're able to see that thing way out in space because of the microwaves in the radar systems that are looking out into space in these space telescopes, these radar system arrays. If you want to look behind you guys, here's an interesting example. So here at the bottom, this is where the electrons come from, and they go down this tube. And as they go down the tube, you can put a signal on the tube, and that signal, that voltage, do you know what an electron is?
Yeah.
Do you know what its charge is? Is it negative or positive?
It's a negative.
That's right. So what does a negative and a negative do?
Creates positive? Oh, wait, no.
Not quite, but there's a repelling force. So they don't like each other. You can influence the electrons going down the tube by putting a negative signal on the circuit. So as they're going down the tube, they're going down the tube. So they end up here, by the way. This is called the collector. That's called the gun. That's called the collector. So electrons go down the tube to the collector, and this thing's big because it needs to dissipate energy. So an electron is small, but it does have mass. And so anytime you slow something down with mass, there's energy. You have to stop the energy, and that is dissipated as heat. So here in this example, energy is dissipated as sound waves, But when you have a lot of electrons going down a tube, the energy is dissipated as heat, putting a negative signal on that electron beam, right? And then if you stop a whole bunch of them, you have a whole bunch of them together. They're bunched together. And so you have a bunch of charged particles together that makes a big signal. And so that's what we do here, is we take electrons and we move them down a tube and we bunch them together, and that bunching is a big signal. It has a lot of charge because you have a lot of charged particles together, that makes a big charge, that makes a big signal. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a big signal, high power, in the microwave range. So this is used in the medical field. This is used for radio surgery. So radio surgery works basically by using X-rays to target cancer cells to kill them. X-rays are killers. You know, they destroy cells. You never want to get your hand in an X-ray beam. If something says something's making X-rays, stay away, because that's ionizing radiation that can destroy the DNA in your cells and give you cancer. But we can also use X-rays for good, because we can focus them. The patient, you know, has a cancer, it's got a tumor somewhere. Well, we can destroy the tumor using those X-rays, and that saves the person. This is kind of a good overview. Radar. More radar. Also, you know, electronic countermeasures to jam other radars. Space observation. Remember that meteor that I mentioned? Yeah. You know, our tubes are in radio telescopes, so they're beaming a signal out into space, and they're looking at the reflection, and they can see objects way out in outer space. And that's how we know there's a less than 2% chance of this meteor making contact with the Earth next year. Or was it this year? No, this is already 2025. Also, radio imaging. There are some industrial applications and science. So remember how I told you about the linear accelerator? Yeah. This is what a linear accelerator looks like. Obviously, it's a lot longer than the one in that clinical linear accelerator. But this is a linear accelerator for science.
If you were to give advice to a younger generation, say in middle school, who wanted to become electrical engineers, what advice would you give them?
Well, I'd say get a lot of practice at doing math problems. So like practice tests and that sort of thing. Speed and accuracy. Speed and accuracy. If you're really good at taking tests and you get the right answers and you can do it really fast, you can do it. You know, sometimes you might get a competitive exam where you have to be faster than the other people in your course. If you can do that, you know, you're probably going to be a good engineer, because that's a lot of what it is.
What classes do you take in college?
So I took electrical engineering, I took calculus, but I also took some other additional math courses like statistics. Actually, statistics is probably what I use most in my day-to-day job, because I need to look at high volumes. And, you know, there's a lot of variance when it comes to high volumes. So you're making part after part after part, and they're not all the same. There's a little bit of variance there, and you describe that with statistics. So even events that are totally random can be described with statistics.
If you don't mind us asking, how much does an electrical engineer make?
6 figures. Yeah, you will make 6 figures. You won't start off that way.
Yeah.
Certainly not at this company, but you know, you'll be rewarded eventually.
What do you think is the starting average?
Mid 5 figures. Let's say mid to upper 5 figures.
I think that's all we got for right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you guys had a good time here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go.
Hi, my name is Oz. I'm going to be interviewing Ed. He's a business owner of 2 Filipino restaurants, and this wasn't his first job before.
This is like my third career. Oh. I was in the medical field for 22 years before this.
Nice.
Yeah. So I tell my kids, I have 4 kids. We're blessed. This is the only country that you can do whatever you want.
So you are a business owner, right?
Yes.
Of 2, right? 2?
2 restaurants.
2
right.
restaurants, 2 Filipino restaurants. Did culture help push you into creating these restaurants? Like, did they?
Yes and no. My kids grew up eating this kind of food. I grew up eating this kind of food. So I knew. Also based on, I have a little bit of marketing background. than me. Just to give you a perspective, how many Filipino restaurants do you go to?
Ano, Kapsila, Tamin Street, I don't know.
How many Chinese restaurants do you know? How many Japanese restaurants do you
A
know?
lot.
How many Mexican restaurants do you know? We are the third largest ethnic group in this country. And that's why I went on to this business, because there's no competition. We're the third largest ethnic group. I pretty much have, you know, zero competition. If you think about it, it's not enough. How many ethnic restaurants do you know?
A lot. There's everywhere. Multiple
Basically,
in one city.
basically what I'm trying to say is, Filipinos, we don't go in restaurant business. We like our medical field. They like the post office. We like the airport. There's not too many Filipino restaurants that go into restaurant business. That's why I went into the restaurant business, because I know I will have less competition. There are a lot of Filipino restaurants, but not enough for the population that we have. And I don't only target the Filipinos. Over 50% of my clientele base are non-Filipino.
To become a business owner, is there any education or training that is required?
My education background has nothing to do with the restaurant. It's people business. Like what I tell you guys, if you set your heart into something and you don't accept failure, failure is not an option. You will make it. In my opinion, they're all different. And again, you know, it has to be your passion. People skills.
Like talking skills and all that?
Talking skills, talking to people, talking to your customers, dealing with your employees, you know, if you don't have the right attitude, you don't have the right people skills, then it's hard to make it in, because this is a people's business. You're dealing with customers, you gotta make sure you treat them. In the restaurant business, I always say 50% comes from 50% comes from the people that work around it. Right? You can have the best food, but if you have rude people working in there and no personality, right? Inflation, getting the right people to do it. You know, yeah. Inflation is number one because everything's so expensive. When I opened 14 years ago, the margin is much better, but now everything is so expensive. For example, I'll give you an example. A case of eggs used to be $14. A case. Every single dish comes with an egg here.
Oh, yeah,
and now one case is $150, $14 versus $150. So he eats up on your profit, and then labor is high too.
Labor and and then you gotta buy the resources just the produce to get all these dishes.
The resources is no problem. They're everywhere. The problem is the cost.
The cost.
Yes, you know, because if you just have to find, Filipino food is like, you know, I mean, we can buy anywhere, you know, and then just kind of manipulate it to how the flavor that we need to do. But it's just the cost of the goods is the one of the most challenging for us right now.
What do you enjoy most about this work?
People, you know, meeting people every day. Different walks of life, doing things on my own, you know, not having a boss. Yeah. So first is when I was young, I used to work in a grocery store.
Oh.
I did 20 years there, and then after 10 years of being in the grocery store, I started the medical field. And then while I was working the medical field, I was still working at the grocery store. I had 2 jobs, working almost 16 hours a day.
When you were younger, did you want to become in the medical field?
No.
It's just the stigma.
Being a Filipino,
Yeah.
We were born. You know, it's just put in our lap, you know. So,
It's either
my generation, at least. For you guys' generation, you're given a choice. Us is like.
I think it's still nurse.
Well, because now people are finding out that the money is there, so more people are not just Filipinos now. Like, yeah, when a customer comes in, I want to make them feel like they're eating in their own kitchen. So if you notice inside, I don't have restaurant tables. I have like family tables. Yeah, long tables, and you feel like you're home. And when you're eating, whether you're Mexican or Chinese or white, we joke with you, and you know you feel like you're home. You're a guest, you know, and we make you feel like you're family inside. Yeah. Organiza, sisig, and tapa. That's it. And then you can share. Okay?
Before that, I have one more question.
Yeah.
For a younger generation, if somebody wants to be like you, what is your advice?
Remember I told you when you guys first came here?
Yeah.
Remember this. I tell my kids this. This is the only country that you can do whatever you want. This is the 4th country I lived in. I was born in the Philippines. I grew up in Africa, and then we briefly lived in Europe to come to the United States. Any part of the world, I've been to 4 different countries. This is the only country that you can do whatever you want. If you set your life, you know that right now, if you decide that you want to be a doctor, you know it's possible. If you want to be a pilot, you know you can do it. You know, this is the only country that you guys can do it. How old are you? 16, how old are you? 15. Okay, 15. 10 years from now, from 16, 15, 16, to when you guys start 26, if you guys just concentrate and go to school, you know that by the time you're 26, you can be independent, living in your own place, have education, and have your own career. If you guys just set the path. You know, this is the only country that you can go to school if you want. You guys are blessed. Whatever you want to do in life.
How old he was when I started working here? How old were you when you started working here? I was 15. Yeah, he's my head chef. When I retire, this restaurant's gonna be his. This
this guy, how old is this guy? This one, 28. 25, 28. No, he's 18 years old. Both of them run the kitchen. They do the restaurant. So what I'm trying to say is, look, he cooks all the Filipino food. He's Chinese, can you tell? Can you make them long silog, top silog, and sisilog? Okay. Garlic? Garlic rice.
Garlic rice?
Yeah. For the escuela, they put that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for doing this.
How are ya?
Good.
For our takeaways this time, I believe with Rich, he made me realize I don't have to go to a very expensive college in order to succeed in life.
For my takeaway, for David, I've learned that if you just keep trying, eventually you lead to success.
When it came with Taylor, I would say that you would have to keep trying to on a subject that is required. Just keep trying and try again until you succeed with what your goal is to be.
My takeaway from Ed was you might not have to go to school for the job that you're in right now, but life experience can lead you down a path to success. My name's Oz. I'm going to be interviewing Ed. He's a business owner of...
It shouldn't not be overreacting with this. It's just simple.